I'm going to take you right inside of my Azure account. So all a data lake really is a storage account inside of your Azure. And again, this will be the customer's Azure instance. So I'm going to create a brand new storage account. And I'll put it in this group. Okay, I'm going to be very, I'm just going to call it what we're using today for our training. So I'm going to call it the Popdock Data Lake Upload Tool demo. And I'm going to put this in the same region where Popdock is hosted. In my example, I'm in the US, so I'm going to put it in the north central US, which is where everything is. Okay, I'm going to maybe just spend a couple moments here talking about some of the concerns people have when they set these up. There's a couple little options. There's only two main things that you need to know, but people get stuck on should it be standard versus premium. In all the testing that we've done, we haven't really seen a huge improvement in performance. And so I guess we'd probably recommend that you do standard. It's a bit cheaper than premium as well. The second thing is if you want to make sure that this is backed up outside of the Azure data center where everything else is, then you would pick a geo redundant option. Otherwise, if you're okay with just the backup being in the data center, that's fine. It essentially doubles the amount of the cost each month, depending on what you choose there. Okay, the next thing that's really important on this one is really this enable hierarchical namespace. Say that 100 times. That is basically going to give us folders, if you will, right? So if you have more than one company, for example, we're going to store it in a different folder. And that is probably the biggest area. Those two things are what you need to know. The only other thing I'll point out here is some people think that maybe changing it to cool is actually going to save them some money. I have not found that to be the case. I've actually seen the prices go up if you choose cool instead of hot. And so I'd recommend doing this because it gives you better performance than a cool storage. So that's really all we need to do is we'll just review that. And now after we get that, we're going to do a creation. So literally, if I had quit talking a little bit sooner, we'd have had that created in about 30 seconds. So that's how easy it is to set up a data lake, which is again, simply a Azure storage account. All right, looks like we're done. So there's a couple things that are gonna be important in here. I'm gonna copy a couple of these pieces of information so that I can use it later. So give me 1 second here, and I'll kind of talk you through this. Okay, so the very first thing, if we look at this, now we have a storage account called PDLUT demo, Popdock Data Lake Upload Tool demo. The second part we have to do inside of here is we have to create a container. So it's very simple to do that. My recommendation is, like, again, we're going to recommend that you run this more than one time. So I'm going to call one GP lists in this case. And I'm going to create a second container as well called GP tables. This is kind of a best practice. We have this, I'm going to come back to this in just a second, or just a few minutes. I'm going to get into the documentation we have to help you on how to do this as you go forward. But we'll have two containers where we're going to put this information inside of here. And then the last thing that's really important is that you're going to need to connect to this this data lake account. And so there'll be a couple of keys inside of here, which is what we're going to use. So I'm just going to grab this key and I'm going to paste this over into my notepad over here on my other screen real quick. So just 1 second. Okay, So that's really, we're done inside of Azure now. That, again, that didn't look like much of um, a development exercise, did it? So where we're going to go next is inside of Popdock, and how do we connect to a data lake? So we'll go in and we're going to add a new connector. Again, you can see we have a million connectors in here. Um, Obviously, we have support for not only the newer Microsoft ones, but obviously to help out with the migration, the GP, NAV, SL to bring those as well. So this one, we're going to be pumping data or getting access data from the data lake in this case. So we'll pick the data lake gen store or storage gen 2. The storage account is what I just created for you. And so that's called PDLUT demo. The container on this one, I'm going to just use my GP lists one. And then here's the key on this one is that's a big, long, ugly shared key. So I'll hit validate, and if everything goes well, all right. I don't know, maybe I copied the key wrong. Apologize for that. Um, okay, so now we're connected to one data lake. You can see it's creating it here. I'm going to rename this just for a second, or in a second, because it'll make it a lot easier as we go into it. Okay, so there we go. That's going to be the name of my data lake. So now, again, in just a few moments here, we were able to not only set up a brand new data lake, but we were also able to connect to it with Popdock.